Welcome back, everybody, to the Label Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Tom.
And I'm Mark.
And we're here to bring you another episode of anything and everything labeled paranormal. And our topic today is a topic of psychics and or mediums. And we have a wonderful guest with us, June Edward. She so graciously answered our, message to be on this podcast, and we can't wait to hear about her experiences and her thoughts and ideas on this topic. So June, I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background and current role before we dive into the topic.
Sure. My name is June Edward. I'm a psychic medium, and for anybody that doesn't know the difference, everyone has psychic ability. That's that knowing. That's, you're just supposed to do something or something's going to happen. That's your psychic ability. Mediums talk to dead people, for lack of a better, easier way to explain it to you. I see souls from the other side. I see energy because that's what our soul is. Mm-hmm. And although everyone also has mediumship abilities, always keep in mind that the souls from the other side are not going to work with you unless you're pure of heart and are doing it for the right reason. If that's not the case, then the angels and the souls are just not going to work with you. So there are a lot of psychics out there, and everybody, including myself, has run into them that are out there for nefarious purposes, or, just, give me $1,000 and I'll get rid of the boyfriend, and, but you won't see anyone like that that's actually a medium. That's the difference.
Okay.
So I've been this way since a child, blocked my abilities for the majority of my life, died when I was 27, went to heaven, had a full life review, came back here by choice. My abilities opened up for me about 10 years ago when it was apparently time. It was like kicking the door into the other side. And I was one of the biggest skeptics there was. So, our belief systems change based on our experiences for the most part. And when you die and go to heaven and you come back, trust me, there's, no denying it at that point.
Wow. That is, that's the best intro that I think, anybody's ever given on, especially on this podcast. And you definitely checked off 1 and 2 on the sample show outline. So great job there. I guess you knew it. But anyway, no, one of my questions, or one of the first ones, was to dive into it and the label of psychic or medium. I guess we can start there because, Mark and I are not skeptic or psychics, not mediums or anything like that. But, in a similar realm, we deal with paranormal events, and it's real to us, but it has a connotation with the outside general public of, there's none of that, there's nothing like that, all that kind of stuff. And for us, we recognize that we do have some, individuals who are in this for wrong reasons too. And we have individuals that will claim any and everything paranormal, and almost like individuals that would, however you want to call it, a more level head or whatever, Mark and I, we have to be more skeptical than skeptics to our own, to our own, people here in our genre. And you had mentioned that you have run into individuals who are in, psychic in the paranormal realm or in the medium realm that are in it for the wrong reasons. Is there, for anybody listening or watching who wants a true, genuine, authentic experience, what would you say are some things to look out for?
So again, I would find someone who's a psychic medium, first of all. Okay. And I would look for someone that has either lots of history and reviews or someone that is referred to you by someone that you know. That's, probably the best way to do it. But, the reality of it is you can learn how to trust your own intuition. That's that gut feeling. That's your psychic ability. That's your soul. And that's what people need to learn how to get in touch with. When you learn to get in touch with your soul, then you'll know. You know, you'll know if someone's authentic. You'll know if you're supposed to take that route to work in the morning. You'll know if your husband's cheating on you. You just know these things because you're in touch with your soul. Bottom line.
Oh, wow. Um, do you have any advice? And that's a great topic to segue. Do you have any advice for people to connect with their soul? It seems like a lot of us do not have, or we're not born with a certain intuition to do that, and the outside world kind of keeps us from doing that. It wants scientific data. So, how would you recommend people get more in touch?
So this entire world is all about distraction, right? This is why we have TV. It's called programming. Everything is a distraction. People don't focus on anything. And thus they miss mostly everything that's happening around them, okay? You can be walking down the street and there can be mugging happening to your left and you're not seeing it because you're not paying attention to anything. Most eyewitness accounts are wrong because people can't even look at someone and retain that knowledge long enough to be able to give a description back. That's the majority of people. So you really need to stop paying attention to your surroundings, first of all. Now, every one of my books, the last book that I wrote, All's Fair in Love and Karma, is what your soul is supposed to be learning here. But every one of my books, I put the directions on how to meditate properly because I feel it is that important. And it is the fastest and easiest way for you to connect with your soul. So we are not the suit that's sitting here. We are the soul that's inside, this energy, okay? Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be created or changed. So when you lose the suit, the energy's got to go somewhere, right? So your soul is way too big for this body to begin with. So you have some of it stuffed in this body. You have some of it that's over your head that people can see, and they call that an aura. And then the majority of your soul is in the fifth dimension, which is the lowest level of heaven. And that orchestrates the timing of all the events that happen in your life. But when you, and we all have a brain in our head, right? Most of us. So your brain is nothing more than a computer, okay? And it works the same way as a computer. You're in IT. It's a file system. The old stuff goes to the back. If you don't need it, your head dumps it because it can only handle so much. So when you make a decision from your head, it's literally a crapshoot, okay? It's a 50-50 chance that it's going to work out right or not, and you're always questioning yourself. When you make a decision from your soul, that's that knowing. And everybody's made some decision in their life that they just knew this was the right thing to do and they did it and it worked out fine. When you make that decision from your soul, it's the right decision 100% of the time. It always works out the way it's supposed to. So when you meditate and you get in touch with your soul, you're getting in touch with not just the soul, it's the part that's inside your body, but you're getting in touch with that part that's in the fifth dimension, which is the lowest level of heaven. And it will start giving you all that knowledge that you've had from all of your lifetimes. It'll start getting downloaded. Your ears will start ringing. And the fastest way to get out of your head and get in touch with your soul is through meditation. And most people don't meditate properly. Most people don't protect themselves. And that's why I felt it was so important to put in every one of my books. Because when you open yourself up to the other side, you're also opening yourself up for evil as well as good. And I've had a couple of my students actually get full-blown possessions because they did not follow the instructions properly. And we're targets. If you have a good heart and you're doing things for the right reason, not your ego, that's not the right reason. If you're doing it for the right reason with a good heart, you are a target for evil. Because that's this whole war that's happening in the world right now is about good and evil. And the end game is they want your soul. God wants it. The devil wants it. Who's going to get your soul? That's the bottom line.
So is this, is what you're talking about, is that also kind of related to like astral projection where you kind of open yourself up? And
absolutely,
like
yeah.
The kind of methodology you use to meditate.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're getting in touch with your soul and more of your soul leaves your body, let me give you a great example. Everybody's seen the movie Avatar when it came out?
Yeah.
Awesome movie. Because this is what it's like. We are literally here playing a part. We're playing a role in a movie. We came down here for vacation to learn some things. This is a movie. Okay?
Yeah.
When you go to sleep at night, your vibration actually rises. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say for the example that I like to use is that our brains are kind of like wireless adapters, and we're kind of receiving this consciousness from another dimension. You
It's
know,
not
we're just
coming
kind of
through your brain, though.
Yeah.
It's not coming through your brain. Most
Well,
of it's coming
yeah.
through your pineal gland, which
Yeah.
just it's like a walnut-sized fluid-filled pool of
Oh,
water that it
okay.
reflects through. That's all. That's where it's coming through.
Okay.
But it's energy that you're absorbing through there.
Yeah.
So when you go to sleep at night, your energy actually, your vibration rises, and more of your soul leaves your body. So yeah, you can astral project when you're sleeping, but you can do this when you're awake through meditation instead of going to sleep at night. But if you're not meditating and you're not getting in touch with your soul during the day, suppose one of your relatives that passed or a friend that passed wanted to get a message to you. Okay? If they can't do that during the day with meditation because you're not doing meditation and you're not in touch with your soul, their only option is to try to connect with you when you're sleeping. So when you go to sleep at night and your soul, your energy level rises, your vibration rises, and your soul's leaving your body, we're in 3D, they're in 5D, and your sleep area is 4D, your dream state. So you're going to the dream state, they're lowering their vibration, and they're meeting you in that dream state. And you'll know it's a visit and not a dream because it will seem like it's real. You'll wake up immediately and you'll remember it very clearly. Okay. That is a visit. That is a visit. And a lot of times I had somebody the other day that, an old friend came through to them and they were warning them of something and they couldn't understand what it was. And they were in danger. Technically, they were in danger. And they were coming through to warn them because it was the only way that they could do it.
So I appreciate that so much. I've had, when my father passed, I've had those dreams. And I thought they were just dreams, but I've never heard anyone such as you or anyone in your field particularly, articulated that succinctly to me. So I appreciate that. But I have had those visits in my dream state, you know what I mean, from my father who, don't worry, I'm okay, that sort of thing. And I chalked it up just to, I'm dreaming what I want to hear. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So hearing it in that way, lowering vibration, elevating vibration, I genuinely think that because most of my dreams are nonsense. I mean, they are just nonsense. There's no rhyme or reason.
So the other thing that happens at night when you're sleeping, IT again, your brain being a computer, it has to organize the thoughts in your head, okay? Put them in the files. And if there's something that you've been trying to process during the day and you haven't been taking the time to actually process it, your brain will stop processing that at night when you're sleeping. But that's just your brain. That's not your soul. It's just your brain. Okay.
Absolutely. And we, the viewers need to make this distinction. Like you're saying, brain and soul,
right.
They're two different things. One's an organ, one's energy. So,
right. And when it feels real and you wake up right away and you remember it, that is a visit.
So I got a question for you. And I've heard of this concept before and it's interesting to me, where the brain is separate from the soul. So if a person loses their soul, their fleshy meat robot with the brain kind of goes into savage animal mode. Is that like possession, or is that do they sort of lose empathy
sure I'm
or anything like that?
Understanding that you can't lose your soul. If you lose your soul, you're dead.
Okay.
So, when I had to take a lot of training, in order to be able to learn how to turn this on and turn this off. So souls from the other side are not able to come and contact me unless I'm working. It's like a light switch, unless it's an emergency. And I've only had 2 people come through at this point that were emergencies. One of them was my friend's fiance, and he showed up panicked. He's like, I can't get back in my body. I don't know what I did. I can't get back in my body. I went to see Lynn at work and I can't get back. And he thought he did something wrong. What happened was his soul went to travel to go see her. And, if he was in a coma, some of his soul would have stayed in his body to keep it alive. Same thing if you're on your deathbed. Most of your soul is gone. There's a little bit in your body still keeping it alive. But his body actually died when he had gone to visit her. So he couldn't get back into his body.
Okay.
If you don't have a soul, you can't get in your body. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. And I want to pivot a little bit to what you were saying about, not doing it the wrong way and not protecting yourself. Now, I'm a paranormal investigator. I do, the prayers and sage and things like that to ward off evil spirits. I do a physical level of this. When you talk about the, meditation and guarding yourself spiritually from different types of attachments or possessions, is that it almost sounds like an internal version of a Ouija board, right?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, when you're opening your soul up to the other side, you're opening that up. You're allowing not just good, but evil to come in. And if you're not protecting yourself, you don't even know who you're talking to at that point. I can see who I'm talking to, but if I don't, and I can read the energy, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'll know if something's demonic right away because of the energy difference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Most people aren't going to know that. And demons will come in and play like they're someone else, like they're a child, like they're a friend, like they're your mother. Okay. Yeah. And if you're not picking up on the energy, how the hell do you know who you're really talking to? If you've protected yourself, you are guaranteed that there is nothing demonic coming through. And the people that are coming through are actually who they say they are for you. That's one of the biggest differences. So, and even as a paranormal investigator, I can tell you, you should be protecting yourself big time before you go out. I have a friend that I had to not even talk to anymore because he wouldn't listen to me or anybody else, and he's possessed. He's been possessed for a long time.
Oh, my gosh.
So are there entities outside of angels and demons? Like you said you went to heaven. Were you able to kind of understand the kind of framework that was happening up there?
Not necessarily at that time, but this is where quantum physics comes in. Speed of light is 300 million miles a second, right? Mm-hmm. When I left my body and went into the speed of light and went to heaven, I was traveling at 300 million miles per second plus. And I decided to come back here by choice. So when my soul's traveling at that speed came back into my body, my vibration is automatically much higher than most people's. I can connect to heaven like this. I can go back and forth at will, but only as far as the fifth dimension. They've not allowed me farther than that, but they've allowed me to see farther than that. Okay? For instance, when my parents passed away, they died a few years ago, the exact same age, the exact same day, 1 year apart.
Wow.
And I watched my mom's soul leave her body. And so during the night, there was an angel in the room, and I asked him his name, and he told me it was Makael. I don't know all the angels' names. There's millions of them. So I looked it up, and Makael was the angel that brings advanced souls to the higher realms. So just happens to be, it's also Archangel Michael. Okay?
Yeah.
Michael and Makael are the same angel. Had he told me his name was Michael, I wouldn't have looked him up. But because he said his name was Makael, I looked up what he did. This is why they were always teaching me from the other side. Mm-hmm. But I literally watched my mom's soul go to the higher realms with him and go to my dad and my sisters that were there. So the way they described it to me, it's like a layer cake. And you go to the level based on your belief system and how advanced your soul is. Mm-hmm. But we're all in the same soul group. Okay. So every archangel has their own soul group. And those are the people that you reincarnate with from lifetime to lifetime. And there's millions and millions of people, of souls in every soul group. Okay.
Wow. That's
but from what I have seen of heaven with my own eyes, and to tell you how it feels, there's really just no words to explain. It's just incredible because you take with you knowledge and your feelings. Okay, so for me, it was just a feeling of pure love. However, I've brought souls through since that are miserable. If they were miserable here, they're miserable there. They're not feeling the same love that I was, pure love I was feeling there because they choose not to. They choose to feel differently. If they committed suicide and they feel regret, they're on the other side still, feeling a lot of regret until they get some help over there. So you take your feelings with you and you take your knowledge, and then you have the knowledge of all your lifetimes. But it's amazing over there. It's interesting because to look at it from a distance, there was a photograph that the Hubble space thing took out in space, and they colorized it, and it looks like an ice castle. And that's what it looks like to me from a distance, okay, but not colorized. And as you get up close to it, it's all white. It's pure white. It's white light. It's white columns. It's bright white. It's beautiful white everywhere. Everything's not white. There was a Palladian that I didn't know who or what he was at the time, but I can read the Akashic records. And he is the guardian that lets me into the Akashic record room. I got there by accident the first time, but now I can get back and forth at will. And he's a Palladian. Wow. I've still never seen his face, but I have spoken to him on a few occasions because I did have a woman come to me that had been abducted multiple times and wanted to know why. And who am I going to ask? I have to ask an alien because no one else seems to know. So I called on him and asked him, and he explained it. Yeah.
That's kind of my next area to ask you about. See, I'm more of a UFO guy. I take the paranormal from that sort of lens, and a big theme in ufology is these aliens seem to have telepathic capabilities, and their ships seem to have psychic, like you have to be psychic to communicate with the ships. And what's your take on ufology?
We have the technology. We've had all this stuff. These UFOs we're seeing flying around, trust me, those are recreations by our government. You know, guaranteed. They have the equipment. Where do you think Teflon came from? Teflon came from stuff, things, Teflon, that's one of there's a lot of things that we've gotten that were, technology that we got from them. Time travel is very, we do that. It's just, it's the super elites that have the money that are doing it. It's so just not your average schmo.
What do you think that they are? Do you think, so you mentioned Pleiadian, so that's kind of like a humanoid alien, but then there's all these different other types.
I don't know that they're humanoid. I mean, I've only seen one Pleiadian, and honestly, he's probably about 10 feet tall.
Okay.
He very long arms, but he keeps them under like a robe. So I've never really seen much of his body, to be honest with you. I've never looked up to see his face.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's very tall.
Yeah.
But I have seen many, aliens that have taken over human bodies. I've probably seen 4 or 5 of those already. And the first one blew my mind when it happened because I was literally in a restaurant. And
what's that like?
They're not comfortable in the body. They're not comfortable. That's a big sign right off the bat. They seem very awkward, like they're just not comfortable in this body. And I noticed his oddity, and I noticed his different energy right off the bat. And he telepathically kind of almost attacked me, like, "Don't look my way. Don't look my way."
Wow.
And I'm like, "What do you mean, don't look your way?" So he literally turned around. He was facing the other direction. He turned around and faced me, and telepathically started telling me that,
Whoa.
What? I'm not your business. I'm not you. I'm like, you're not human. And he's like, "Oh, I'm in a human body. So right now I am." I'm like, okay.
That's
so,
pretty wild.
Mark and I just did an episode recently about, and that was one of our theories about the so-called Men in Black, where they were, alien in human bodies because of how odd they are, and how they're near human, where if you glance at a room, they look like a human, but as you took a closer look, felt the energy, maybe they don't have eyebrows, maybe their eyes are too far apart, too close, things like that.
So I'm not sure if they're even human. They're probably something that's cloned. There's so much cloning going on. So it's a cloned body type of thing instead of this. I mean, the ones that I've seen, the 4 or 5 that that I have actually seen, they're not cloned bodies. They're just, they're bodies that they have. I don't know if they were, I have no idea. I did not try to delve into it more, whether or not they were possessed or whether or not the soul is still in there. I wasn't getting any indication of that, to be honest with you.
I see.
People that are possessed by a demonic entity, their soul is still in the body. Okay.
It's just away or down.
It's aware that they are possessed by an evil entity. They are aware. Yeah. Sometimes they're not aware right away that it's an evil entity. Okay. They're aware that someone else is in there with them. Okay. And the way a demonic entity works, So the first thing they do is they form an attachment. So when I see them that way, it looks like you get a dark shadow you're giving a piggyback ride to. That's what it looks like to me. Okay. And once they get to your house and they take you over and they're riding on you for a while and they're whispering in you and they're trying, then you have to kind of invite them in. You know, they try to turn themselves into someone else. So the one that I'm really familiar with, he tried to turn himself into a young boy. Okay. So the person felt bad for him and, oh, I'm afraid. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. And the more empathy you have, boom, they're in. Now, once they're in, it's the same thing. Oh, we can be friends. Oh, you know, and I couldn't help the woman. I am not, my forte is not exorcism, not at all.
Okay.
I tried to help this one. I spent hours, you know, trying to help her on the phone. I'm like, you know, she's even trying to convince me that it's okay. I made friends with them. I'm like, no, you know, and, you know, I don't know what happened. I mean, she literally dropped off the face of the earth at this point, communicatively. And I know another one did end up making it to a Catholic church to get exorcised, to get the demon out. I don't know what this woman did. But it's, you know, possession is not as rare as people think. It's a lot more common than people think. So for an alien to take it, I have to assume that it's on a similar realm if they're taking over your average person's body. And they do it for different reasons. I mean, some of them are working alongside of us at these, you know, at NASA, things like that. And they don't want to, you know, I've talked to people that have worked alongside of aliens that look like aliens.
Really? Yeah. What? Do you have any stories about that?
Yeah.
Only that it's very classified. They're really not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
And that all they can tell me is that they were alien. They looked alien. They were clearly alien, and they were here to help us, and they were working alongside of them. And that's basically all they could tell me. Yeah.
Okay. So
and I live in Florida, so I run into these people occasionally. You know, I live right down the street from NASA.
Oh, there you go.
You don't have to get into anything further, but were they working with the military, with the government, or a contractor?
They worked. I don't know if they were contracted. I really don't know. All I know is they were credentialed people. I'm aware of that. And they were engineers. He was an engineer. That's all I know. He's an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have to pay taxes, Mark. So one thing I wanted to get into, and you know, your stories have been phenomenal. I just have a quick question about when somebody approaches you and you're turned on and you know you're ready to communicate. When you speak with these spirits, do you go and meet them in that fifth layer?
No, I don't have to. I don't. Okay. Because my energy is already so elevated. They come right here.
Okay, so they can come into our third dimension, essentially.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, constantly here all the time.
Energy?
I'm sorry.
They're essentially using your energy.
No, they use their own energy. No, they use their own energy. So it's interesting. Yeah, they can. So there's different. So spirits are different. Souls are different. Okay.
Okay.
The ones that people that die and do not go into the light are stuck here as ghosts. I call them lower vibrational entities.
Okay.
They feel the same to me as a living person. It's the same energy because they have not gone into the light. They haven't raised their vibration. And they can't move any faster than you and I either. Okay. So a lot of them, I always tell everybody, have a rosary, have something in your car, because most of them aren't going to bother you. They're just going to walk away, especially if they have an evil intention. But they can't, if they want to get somewhere, they're literally going to hop in the front or back seat of your car and go for a ride and get out at the next red light, because they cannot move any faster than you or I. Okay.
Okay.
So, but once they've gone into the light, 300 million miles a second, that's how fast they move. They can go anywhere very, very quickly. That's why if you've ever seen an orb, they travel very quickly. Okay. It's hard to see orbs with your eyes because they're moving so quickly.
And that's where devices such as like cameras and, you know, full spectrum
can pick them up. Exactly. Yeah. It's just like animals' eyes are different than ours, so they can see them easier than most people. I can see them because I can see the energy. That's why I see them. Yeah.
I have I guess a rather sad question. Are there spirits here on Earth that don't know they're dead?
Many. So I was called to do a house clearing a couple of years ago, and the woman thought she had a demon in her house, which she did. But there was lots of entities in her house. The couple that had owned it before and passed away, they were sitting in the rocking chairs out on the porch enjoying it. They had gone into the light. They were just coming back and forth when they felt like it. Okay, they had much higher energy. I could feel the energy.
Okay.
There was a demon running around the house, but then she mentioned that she keeps coming down the stairs in the morning and seeing this little girl. It's about 8 or 9 years old, and the girl keeps calling her mommy, and it's freaking her out.
Mm-hmm.
So she was not in the house. I went outside the house, and I saw her in the front yard. And she had died, not even necessarily in that house, but her family had owned the farm at one point in time, and it was acreage. And through the years, they gave, an acre here and an acre there to all the cousins and the kids, and everybody built houses. Well, she died at the age of 8 or 9 of either yellow fever or typhoid fever, and she didn't go into the light. So she was going from house to house looking for mommy.
Oh,
so I knew right away what the last name was because the street was named after the person that owned the farm. Mm-hmm. So I called on them, and her parents came through immediately, and she immediately went into the light.
Oh, that has a happy ending to it.
But I mean, there's so many. I did a house clearing in Connecticut once because the woman's son was literally getting attacked by a demon, and I had a paranormal group film it. And, she pulled the shirt up and the bite marks were happening as, right in front of us. But as I was going through the whole house, it was a 3-family. When I went into the basement, it was full of Irish immigrants that came over here back in the day. And as they passed, if they were afraid to go in the light, they huddled together. Spirits call each other, basically. It's the energy. All right. Just like misery loves company, right? It's the energetic vibration. We're always either attracting or repelling at any given time. And it doesn't make a difference if you're alive or dead. The soul is still the soul. The energy is energy. So the basement was full of Irish immigrants, and the demon was down there at the same time. And I'm like, listen, you have to go into the light. And they're like, no, we can't go in the light. He said it's going to burn us. I'm like, pay no attention to him. He is evil. I said, your families are in the light. They're waiting for you. Your children are in the light. So every single one of them, just single file, boom, 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 went to the light. And it was the same thing when I went into the attic of that house full of Italian immigrants. Not as many, but quite a few. And I moved them into the light. And I was also was asked to do a paranormal investigation at a house in Newport, Rhode Island once. And they asked me to go to the attic after. And as soon as I did, I'm like, this was on the Underground Railroad. And they're like, yeah, it was. And I'm like, yeah, it's full of slaves. And it was the same thing. On the Underground Railroad, this was a safe place for them. So as they passed, they all went back into that space. And this one was when I was a very new at this and still training. And I was almost in a trance talking to them. I was just so zoned out, and I wasn't protecting my energy, and I didn't know how to clear it at the time. So I had brought on all of their energy. I don't know how I ever drove home that night, to be honest. And I didn't know about how to send them into the light or move them on at that point either. Now, anytime I encounter any of them, that's my first question. Do you want to go into the light and tell them what it's about?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
You're talking about going into the white light. Is there a window to the white light? Can you miss your window?
I don't think you can miss your window. I think it's always probably there visible if they want to go into it. Just like, every time I try to send somebody to it, it's there.
Okay.
It's there.
I wasn't sure if maybe like when you pass and, you want to go into the light, but if you don't, then it closes or something.
Yeah, I don't think so, because everybody, that I've been able to send into the light, they immediately see it and go.
Mm-hmm. So when you were saying that if people don't go into the light, and correct me if I'm wrong, they carry like the they carry the emotions of when they were alive, like the regret. If you said if somebody,
well, same thing if you go into the light. Even if you go into the light,
okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
you're the same person there as you were here. You don't automatically change into somebody else.
gotcha. No. So then my question is there a lot of fear in that lower level because for people
There
that might have
is.
been murdered or things like that?
Well, there's so many reasons that they're stuck here. So I owned a restaurant at one point in time, and it was, we found all the guy's belongings, believe it or not, when we were doing the renovations. He had been living up and over the ceiling, over the old storage room, because it had been a restaurant 40 years earlier or 50 years earlier. Yeah. And he was such a strong entity that the bartenders would see him walk in and walk through the building and then disappear. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So when everyone would leave at night, they're supposed to turn off all the lights in the kitchen, shut it down, set the alarm, and go home. Well, I'd come in the morning, every light in the blooming place was on, all the I'm like, what the hell? Honest to God, we shut it off, blah, blah, blah. So now I got to go back on the cameras, right? And sure enough, they're out of there at 2 a.m. At 2:10 a.m., all the lights are flicking back on. I'm like, So I went in there and I called him out. And we talked, and I think his name was Jimmy. And he told me he had been a cook in the previous restaurant. And he was, he had a drinking problem. He was an alcoholic. He was also on medication. He had some mental issues. And he fell in the street and hit his head on the curb and died. Oh. And he was very, very happy that it was a restaurant again because he loved to cook. And I said, listen, you're really not supposed to be here. Why don't you go into the light? And he goes, I don't want to go. I really like it here. I want to stay here. So I'm like, okay, listen, I'll make a deal with you then. I'll let you stay, but, you can't be showing yourself and you can't be turning the lights on because it's costing me an arm and a leg. If there's a problem, you can leave the lights on for me. Otherwise, they have to stay off. And sure enough, twice he turned the lights on for me, and both times there was a problem. One was an electrical issue that would have caused a fire, and another one, one of the refrigeration units had shut down.
Oh, wow. That's very intelligent. That's wonderful.
They're intelligent. Absolutely, they're intelligent. It's the same intelligence they had when they were here.
Yeah, I mean, so when you said somebody who had a strong energy, what would you say gives them, how do you tell what's a strong energy versus not? Like,
everybody's walked into a wedding or a birthday party and felt that energy, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then everybody's walked into a funeral or everybody's crying and felt that energy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I pick up on all the differences of energies. Now, why some souls are more energetic or more talkative than others, I don't really know. Okay. And, I used to think it had to do with how evolved the soul was, but that's not true either, because I brought this guy through who was like 30 years old and would not talk to me at all. All symbolism. And he was a trickster. And he was, he wanted to play chess with me. So
did you play chess with him?
I did. Telepathically we're playing chess, right?
Nice.
And I had his mother there. She was the one who wanted to talk to him. And I'm like, he's giving me Shakespearean lines as he's playing chess with me. She's like, yeah, that's him. I'm like, oh my God. So he was very advanced, very clever. And I've had some other ones that, played some real tricks on me as I'm bringing them through. They're teaching me something every time. But some of them are so talkative that I cannot repeat what they're saying fast enough. I just let them talk through me, literally. And other ones, it's a complete charade game. So I don't want anybody giving me information, but I may ask for clarification. So for instance, they've given me a whole list of things that mean things. If they show me a pocket protector, then the guy was either an engineer or he thought he was a geek. Didn't fit in. One of the two. Okay. So I kind of need to know which it was there. And most of the time they're engineers. Okay. But they might show me like a white Cadillac. That means nothing to me. Did they drive one? Did they sell them? Do you drive one? Were they hit by one? I don't know where they're going with this message until I know what the deal is with the car.
Okay.
It's things like that. But, for the most part, more often than not, they're pretty talkative.
Have you ever fully channeled one of these spirits? Like just let them speak through you?
That's
anything
what I was
like
just
that?
saying. Yeah, they talk so fast, I just let them speak right
Oh,
through
so
me.
like, and you're actually talking.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
there are some mediums that have to sit there and go into a deep trance in order to have it.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
All right.
To me, it's just, it comes natural to me.
Okay.
So it's it's just a flow. They're
you
not
believe-
using my energy. They're using their own energy. But I
Okay.
will let them speak through, I'll just let them speak through me
Wow.
instead of me repeating everything. It's just easier.
Absolutely. No. So, when you talk, so matter of factly about, different levels, or I mean, levels of heavens and things like that, and people who do not choose to go into the light, um, how do I want to word this? How is it, um, for you? How can you fight, I guess a negative connotation that there is no afterlife when you have been there yourself? Does that make you disappointed, frustrated? How
What do
does
you
that
mean,
make you?
for somebody else's point of view?
Yeah, yeah. I
You
guess
know
somebody
what?
else.
It's everyone's belief system is based on what they've been told or what they've experienced, right?
Okay.
Give me a great example. I had a friend of mine, love of his life. She passed away of cancer. He's heartbroken. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's got so much energy. She comes through a lot. She has so much energy. She learned how to work his iPhone. She would send messages to his phone, and I'm like, "There's no way.
Wow.
Somebody's screwing with you. Somebody's sending."
Yeah.
She is sending the messages. She figured out how to work the phone and would have the most beautiful messages on his phone for him all the time. It's amazing. I've got other ones that, they've passed and we work, I tell them to work out something with a light switch. Just tell them, this is the light here. It's easy for you. It's a touch light or it's a night light. I'm going to ask you questions. Yes for once, twice for no. You guys probably do it with a flashlight. Just an easy connection for them to be able to do it. I'm not going, anyone that's listening to this podcast right now, you are here for a reason. There is something that you're hearing that you need to hear because there's no accidents in this world. Everything that happens for a reason. And my job is not to try to hammer anything home to anybody or change your entire belief system, whatever. The way I see it, when you die, you're going to know everything I know anyways. I'm just trying to help people understand what they've taught me. And if I can give them some information, some help, that's why I'm here. I came back here for a reason.
Yeah. And you said you chose to come back here.
I did.
Do you mind elaborating why you chose that?
So, when I passed to the other side, and it was just amazing. It was just incredible. The love, the feelings, the knowledge, everything. And they were showing me, if you can picture yourself sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater, that's what my life review was like. And most people, they call it near-death experience, right? NDE, because scientists haven't quantified it yet. Once they can, it'll change it to a death experience. And I always called it, I died, because I never heard the term before of NDE for a long time, right? Yeah. And I couldn't talk about it for a long time because it just brought back such emotion. I would just sit there balling up in tears. I couldn't even talk about it. And everything they showed me in my life review was everything that, I had a really hard life. I've had a very difficult childhood, everything. But they were showing me everything in my life that was good, everybody that helped me, everything that I loved, everything that brought me joy. And I don't know if they were trying to help me make the decision to come back. I really have no idea. And I wasn't planning on coming back. And then I remembered my children. And I'm like, I came here. That's one of the biggest reasons I came here this time was for my children. And I just knew I had to come back. And as soon as I made that decision, I was back in my body in a second. And I hadn't had my third son yet. So he was destined to be born. So I knew this is where I was supposed to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, if I had to make you answer this, do you believe everybody has that ability to choose, or
no? They've done many studies from people that have had a near-death experience, and some people are told point blank, "It's not your time," and they're taken right back. And some people aren't told anything, and they come right back. And a lot of people that come back commit suicide. because the feeling on the other side is very difficult to get back here.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's possible. So for anyone that's listening has had an NDE and is feeling the depression and the heaviness from having to be here, meditate, get in touch with your soul, and you will get right back in touch with the soul that's in that 5D level, and you'll have that feeling right back again. It's amazing.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I have a buddy who he accidentally overdosed on heroin, actually, and he said, he was dead for a while. His mother told him he was dead, and he said, I had black, I had nothing, and there was nothing. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in my, in the hospital bed a few days later, and everyone telling him that he had died, or was dead for a certain point.
So that tells me that his soul was basically just stuck here for a while. That's what that tells me.
Okay.
So a lot of people have talked to me about different things thinking they had died. My youngest brother was in a very severe car accident at 16. He thought he died. And he remembers his soul standing outside the car watching the paramedics take him and extract him from the car and everything.
Okay.
And I had another girlfriend who was in a very bad accident. A deer came through the window. She had a head injury. She saw the spirit of the deer go right up to heaven. But her soul was stuck on the roof of the car. And she's a devout Catholic. She thought she had done something wrong that her soul couldn't get to heaven. Well, what I have learned is that when something traumatic is going to happen to the body, the soul jumps out immediately. So they aren't dying. They're not supposed to die, but the soul is watching it from the outside so that you're not feeling all the trauma. So when my soul was not in my body, I didn't feel any of the stuff that they were doing to my body. I didn't feel the paddles. I didn't feel them slapping me. I didn't feel any of that. I saw it, didn't feel a thing. And that's what I've learned is that, when your soul knows what's happening, your soul knows everything that's going to happen. And it literally jumps out of your body before any impact, before anything traumatic, anything like that. So you're not traumatized.
Oh, okay. I mean, there is a little bit of, scientific credence to that, because a lot of people say when they have a traumatic thing, I don't feel anything. You know what I mean? And,
the adrenaline
exactly.
rush.
Yeah.
Your soul protecting your, how you feel. I think that makes a ton of sense. That definitely, does, because that can affect you. I mean, look, pain affects us every day. There's people who live with more than others, but we generally, in a self-preservation mode, we don't want to go towards pain. You know what I mean? So having something like that to save us is, an amazing feature that, you're glad to have, but you never want to have to use it, I guess. With one quick question here, in terms of people who have been wronged, killed, whatever, in the afterlife, how come more of them don't want to come back and speak to people such as yourself to, maybe put somebody away or anything like that? Are they just not in the space to?
So there's different scenarios.
Okay.
I did have a family come to me. The uncle had been murdered, and he was still hanging around here. Absolutely wanted his killer to be put away.
Okay.
But he was also very concerned of the fact that they were all consumed with finding him. And he, I have an agreement with the other side. They can tell me what happened. They can show me what happened, but no blood or gore. I don't want to see that.
Okay.
So he showed me everything that happened, and he was stabbed to death, and the dumpster they threw the clothes in, where it happened, everything, and who it was. And they knew who it was, but he wanted to make it very clear that he's not going to get caught for his murder. He is going to get caught for another murder, for another crime, and he is going to go to prison the rest of his life. So they need to just let it go.
Wow.
And he had already...
There's a lesson in that, too.
I'm sorry?
There's almost like a lesson that,
everything happens for a reason, and we planned this life before we came here. So he knew that was his exit. He knew he was coming back here and going to get murdered and leave when he did. He knew that. There's a lesson in there for everybody. Even a baby that's born and dies, an hour or two later knows it's only coming in here for a very short period of time. Who's the lesson for? The parents, the doctor? Who knows? But we plan this life before we come here. There are no accidents. Everyone is absolutely right where they're supposed to be at any given time. So don't worry about regrets, because nothing was going to change. You can't change things that way. The universe wants you to think you have choice, okay? So the universe will offer you door 1, 2, and 3. You take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have a couple kids, you get divorced. Where are you going to be? In front of door 1, 2, and 3. Most people are taking door 1 again. They get married, they have a couple more kids, they're going to be in front of door 1, 2, and 3 again. If they learn the lesson they were supposed to learn, they're not going to take door 1 again. They're going to take door 2 or door 3. They may still get married and have children, but it's not going to end in divorce the way it did the first 2 times, because they learned the lesson they're supposed to learn. Hence the reason I wrote the book based on my relationship mastery program. The book is the All's Fair in Love and Karma, and it's the reasons we come back here: collect karma that we owe to other people. So we are learning, teaching, little mini vacation because you don't have a body on the other side, so you can't smell, you can't taste, you can't have sex, you can't enjoy a lot of things, right?
I gotcha.
We're really here for the blink of an eye in existence when you think about it. We really are.
That's incredible, and I truly appreciate how succinct you are in describing what you've seen, and the fact that you've written a book to help others.
This is my 4th book.
Okay,
my 4th book.
To help others.
Yeah. My first book will teach everybody how to get in touch with their soul. Everything I used to teach in psychic development and mediumship is in my first book, A Night on the Other Side.
So, June, let me tell you this. I'm going to buy your book. I'm going to use it, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm kind of scared, to be honest with you. I'm scared to, see that version or that realm, or open myself up to knowing, what my soul wants.
And this is the whole thing. Like I said, people are stuck in their brain and they make their decisions based on fear, right? I would not be able to do what I do if I had any fear. And I blocked my abilities for a better part of my life because I was afraid of them. I have a sister that has a lot of abilities, same as me. She doesn't want to know anything about it because she's afraid of it. Definitely afraid. Mm-hmm. You cannot live in fear. You cannot have fear, have any, the opposite. What do you think the opposite of fear is?
Happiness?
It's love. It's love. You can't have fear and love at the same time. And it's not anger and it's not hate. It's love. It's fear. Fear and love are the opposite of each other. So you have to learn how to get rid of the fear so that you can live your life in love, because that's one of the lessons we're here to learn: unconditional love.
I got a question for you. Do you think that these sort of latent psychic abilities that everyone has, do you think that at one point in time humans had a better grasp on them and the modern age sort of dampens these abilities?
Okay, so first let me say that everybody has the ability. It's like playing a piano. Some people just sit down and play chopsticks. Other people really want to learn a little bit, can teach themselves a couple songs, right? You really want to apply yourself, you can become a concert pianist. And then you always have the child prodigy. That's what I was like. Sit down and play Mozart. Mm-hmm. Thousands of years ago, it was commonplace. Everyone was aware and used their psychic abilities. We didn't have telephones back then, right? Father was out in the field working all day. There was a problem at home. Suddenly he'd get this emergency alert. Maybe the kid got injured, right? He'd come running back in. It was normal. In fact, I read what's called the cards of the Magi. That's another whole issue. But the Magi's back in the day were the advisors to the rulers. And mm-hmm. they were the ones telling them when to go to war, when to plant your crops, what the best time, what was going to happen, what the future was going to be, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was a normal thing. But now, as time went on, the rulers got fearful of the people that had more abilities than they did. Okay. And they wanted to control them. And now you have the general population that had that ability as well. And we don't want them having that information either, right? So we want to control them. And that's what they did. And this is where, they started with, let's burn the witches. And, it's been many times through history. And then, in modern day, we have fluoride, which they dump into the water. And that started as a byproduct from, the iron and the steel. And that calcifies your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is literally, they found the pineal gland is actually made up of the same material as your eyes. Okay.
Wow.
And it's a small, walnut-sized gland that sits in the middle. It's not in your brain. It's between the lobes of your brain. And it's like a reflecting pool. And all the energy reflects on that. So that's where you see your pictures. That's where you pick up your messages, all kinds of things. And one of the first things you can start to do is stop drinking the city water and start drinking spring water that doesn't have fluoride in it. And it's a process, but all of my friends that have started doing that within 6 to 9 months, or suddenly they'll be like, my meditation's getting so much clearer. I'm on the same wavelength. I'm picking up messages. It's like thoughts are things. Where your thoughts go, your energy flows, right? And they're picking up from other people very quickly. The same time on the phone, calling each other.
The synchronicities.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make up life. I mean, I swear. So yes, I guess that'll bring us to the end. But before we close, June, thank you so much for being on here. I personally learned a ton of knowledge. I can't wait and look forward to reading your book. I'm going to turn over to you for your little promo time. So please tell the audience where they can find you, your book titles, and things like that.
So they can also find this in recording when it's released on my website, which is juneedward.com. I'm on all the social media except for TikTok. You won't find me there. There are lots of videos on my website. There is a free webinar that people can watch in regards to energy, or if they want to improve their relationships.
Yeah.
There are links to all of my books. I have 4 books on there now, 3 books in a journal. Excuse me. You can also book an appointment with me. I do read Akashic Records. I do angel card readings. I can bring someone through from the other side. Excuse me. One second. Losing my voice all of a sudden. I'm talking too long today. But anything that anybody needs, I mean, I never know what's coming every day. I jump in and help where anybody can ask, whatever it is that you need. That's all I can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. And please, anybody listening, everybody, go check out June. She is a phenomenal guest, incredibly talented psychic and medium. And June, I'll personally be reaching out to you because I would like to explore some of those services as well. So thank you for being on here and for Label Paranormal. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, or into your smart speaker, say play Label Paranormal, and we will come up. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you like. Please leave us a 5-star review. We love those. And until next time, everybody be safe to one another. Take care. And to both of you, have a great night.
See you guys.